Welcome to the Right Side. I am Amy Beth Shaver with Allison Sinclair. JP's behind the scenes today, but we are live in Alabama State House. Thrilled to be here. Maybe made it at breakneck speed. I'm not going to say for sure. But we're here with Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth. Sir, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah.
Kicking us off.
Hey, welcome to Montgomery. Great to have y'all here. And I know we hosted y'all years ago in our office on the 7th floor, but good to have you back in Montgomery. And also congrats on y'all's success and how much y'all are doing for the conservative movement. I certainly, as a lifelong Republican conservative, appreciate both of y'all, what you stand for and what you fight for. So thank you.
Listen, it's our honor to be here. Thank you for having us. Question. The lieutenant governor's race is shaping up to be one of the biggest races in this election. You've been in the office now for 8 years. What's one piece of advice that you can offer the next lieutenant governor, and how can they make the position more effective and influential?
Yeah, I think a piece of advice I have for really all elected officials and whoever's the next lieutenant governor is if you know what you believe, it's easy to vote. And so, I came in with parents that taught me biblical truths, biblical values, and that's where, my what I believe comes from. And so I think so often people get influenced down here by lobbyists or people. And so my advice is know what you believe and hold firm to those beliefs, and don't let lobbyists or political winds potentially change what you believe. I think that's real important. So that's my advice to, whoever's out there. What was the other part of that question?
Well, this is so helpful. So beyond that, then if you know what you believe, you know that you're going to stand firm and hold to that. How can the next lieutenant governor make this position, your present position, more effective and influential?
Yeah, I think so. Lieutenant governor, one of the things that's interesting about that spot is, you only break in an instance of a tie. So anytime you vote, you win. But using the office and the bully pulpit of the office is something we've really engaged in. And I didn't quite understand how powerful that was until later in the term. So I think whoever, gets in that office realize, hey, you're elected statewide to represent the entire state, everybody in the state, and use that office for the, promoting conservative beliefs, values, things that you want to get done. And it really, we've helped drive the conversation, whether it was, pushing, school choice, right, and getting that done, killing taxes. You can really shape the narrative because people are going to listen when you speak. And so, my advice is use it early and, often if needed. And then I think, obviously you're going to have a great governor and, Coach Tuberville that's going to push a conservative agenda. And I think, whoever's the next lieutenant governor can use that position to back him up and, get a lot of conservative things done. And it'll be exciting to watch.
There seems to be growing frustration with Washington, D.C. and kind of the inaction that is not happening. They're in a stalemate. DHS is shut down, and there's a lot more focus now on states' rights than maybe ever in the past. Do you feel like the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office is almost more powerful and important now going into this election with where we are in Alabama and U.S. history?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think when you look at that's why, why did I not run for Senate, and why did I not come on y'all's show during all that time? I avoided Allison because I was like, I don't want to be asked
like,
that.
Wouldn't even answer my phone calls.
But look, I'm thankful for, people like Senator Tuberville, Senator Britt, and what they're doing. But man, DC is frustrating, right? Just the lack of an action. I think states' rights are important. And I'll say this, obviously governor's important, lieutenant governor's important. I'll say this, state legislature maybe has as much pop and power as anybody, because especially the way the Constitution is in Alabama, the Senate and House have a lot of constitutional power and authority. So who we elect, or reelect, right, in these elections is going to really determine, whether or not Coach can get stuff done, and who also the next lieutenant governors and what they're wanting to get accomplished. So, but I think states matter now more so than ever, yes. And what's interesting is you're seeing a lot of groups that aren't necessarily good even trying to influence state policy because they realize that's where the power is now.
Sorry, I'm kind of taking calling an audible here, but I'm curious your philosophy between the governor's office and the legislature? Is it more of a checks and balance role, or is it to work together to push through the governor's agenda?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. My opinion on that, if I was governor, or my advice to Coach if he gets governor, is to line out what do you want to do to improve our state, and then get the legislature on board and work together, right? And I think there's a good opportunity right now with Representative Stadhagen being party chair, for everybody to work together, and for Republicans just to run out of state. We can still continue to fight regulations. We can continue to lower taxes, right, which are important. So I think there's going to be a lot of I mean, all this stuff with Islam going on and them attacking Christians and Jews, right? I mean, there's some real fights there, and I think it's important that Republicans stick together and that we push back on that. And look, and let's just be honest. I mean, the Democrats' woke agenda is scary in a lot of instances, and we got to push back on that as well. So I think, my answer would be work together, but I think certainly the way it's set up, there are checks and balances where, somebody, for some reason, a policy's not good. That's why you have the checks and balances. But I think there's a tremendous opportunity for everybody to work together and collaborate.
Based on your time in Montgomery, what is the biggest problem in Alabama that politicians talk about the least?
I think right now the biggest problem is that I'm going to say we've had so many years of good budgets, and where a lot of times you hear the narrative that you don't have to cut anything until budgets get tight. And I'm of the opinion there's still a lot of waste in government, and that's one of the biggest problems that, and it really starts at the executive, branch that I hope Coach Tuberville will tackle. But I mean, I think there's hundreds of millions of dollars of, potentially waste, maybe fraud and abuse in Alabama that we could cut out and save the taxpayers potential money. So
there's a closed primary bill that I think is in committee today in the House. Republicans in the party have been talking about it for years. If it makes it to the Senate, how is the Senate feeling about that, and what do you think its chances are of passing?
Yeah, I really like that bill. And the reason I like it is, I like just Republicans deciding our nominee. And I think that's important. And, sometimes there's some pushback. Oh, you're going to lose elections. You look at other states that have done that. I don't believe that's the case. But it's frustrating to me that sometimes Democrats play in a Republican primary. And we don't need that in our state. We want Republicans deciding Republican, and then in the general vote for, whatever. I mean, if you're a Democrat, you want to vote for Republican, have at it. Or if you want to come over and be a Republican, like, we'll take you, because I understand why you wouldn't want to be a Democrat in Alabama. So, I mean, I'm all for, independents and Democrats joining the Republican Party, but I think the party registration makes sense. I like having parameters there where there's certain things you have to do in order to vote to be, a Republican, where you can't just keep hopping back and forth. And so I think as far as the Senate, I mean, I think we can get it passed. So that's, and I'm going to work hard and use the influence of my office to get that done. And so there you go. Yeah. I mean, I want it. I mean, I think that's important.
So speaking of passing, what else do you think, or would you like for the Senate to accomplish, or do they hope they can accomplish for the rest of the session?
Yeah, I mean, right now, our primary constitutional duty is to, we've got to get our budgets passed, right? And so we're, working on the education budget. We just passed the general fund budget. It went to the House. The ETF's coming up, and so I think there's going to be a lot of focus on that. And I mean, you start looking at billions of dollars of funding going through each line item, make sure it's appropriated correct. It's a lot of work, right, to go through that. And so I think that's the next thing that I want to make sure we accomplish in the Senate, is make sure we get a good educational budget out. And one of those things, I'm passionate about school choice, making sure it's properly funded, and it will be. And then also just making sure that, the money appropriate. And the one thing I'm proud of on the ETF is, since Republicans have taken over, we haven't had proration. We paid back all the money the Democrats borrowed through the rainy day accounts. We're in the best fiscal shape we've ever been. And we've got close to $3 billion in a savings account, because we are going to go back down, right? And so it's important we have that there so we don't go into proration. So from a fiscal standpoint, we've been conservative. We've cut taxes, and we have money set back, right? So I mean, that's totally different from DC, where we're spending money we don't have. And so I'm proud of that, but I also go through line item by line item because I'm a business guy and want to make sure we're not wasting any money. And so that's kind of will be the next thing we work on.
You announced that you have joined Freedom First Alabama. Explain to us what that is, kind of how it came to be, and what the goals are of that coalition.
Yeah, it's just a collaboration of lawmakers and different groups to fight for conservative, liberty, freedom first. That's the name of it, right? I mean, issues. So I think there's going to continue. I think that's needed because right now, liberals, Democrats are well organized, they're well funded, and they come in and sometimes attack on all kind of different fronts. Whether it's property rights, I just wrote an op-ed on that. Whether it's going after supporting traditional teachers unions against having a mechanism for that. Whether it's tort reform, you just go down the list, right? But I think it's important to have a coalition of conservative lawmakers, conservative business groups, and let's say, hey, what is our agenda? And so it's two-part: one, to push back against the liberal woke agenda, but then also to push for things we want to get done. So excited to help push for that. That's what I do. And think that's one of the things I'm pretty good at is articulating a message for things we want to get done. And if you look at kind of my track record, we've been pretty successful at the issues that we want to get passed to getting them passed. I can't think of many that we didn't get done. So
When you and when people look back at your time as lieutenant governor, how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, I mean, I hope first that I treated people with respect, that we had character, that we made a difference from a conservative standpoint, that the state was in a lot better shape than when we started, and then that we weren't afraid to take on the establishment. We weren't afraid to take on big issues, and that I don't know. I mean, I guess that would be some of the things, but because I really boils down to this, right? I think you got one life to make a difference. You better make a difference while you're here. I've said that over and over the entire time, but I really believe that, right? It's like, why are we here, right? Why did God put me in this position? Well, I hope I made a difference to improve our state in all the different areas. And, and look, I mean, we've helped, it doesn't matter if Republican, Democrat, Independent, we've tried to help everybody in our state. But on the issues, I feel like our state is moved more conservative. I feel like people are moving here because we're a conservative state and they're fleeing liberal states. And, I'm proud of what we, I haven't got everything accomplished we've wanted. And certainly, I mentioned earlier some of the stuff I feel like we still need to cut, but that's really more an executive standpoint. I mean, I don't have any ability to do that, but that's kind of some of the things I'm proud of. But it's been an honor to serve and been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for joining us. Enjoy your retirement too. I have a feeling you're not really going away. You're going to still be out there pushing for all the things that you started here. But thank you for being with us today. We're going to take a quick break and we will be back with Representative Danny Garrett on the other side. You're listening to The Right Side.
Welcome back to The Right Side. I am Amy Beth Shaver with Allison Sinclair. We are thrilled to be joined by Danny Garrett, and he is the guru of education. Okay. You are House District
44.
Okay. I should know that because I am 43. I was 43. I'm in Arnold's district. And then you are Ways and Means, and then the guru over education.
Over the education budget.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
the budget.
he who controls the
numbers.
purse strings.
That's what they say.
I'm just saying.
That's what they say, but you know.
Is that accurate?
I don't know that it's totally accurate, but I do have influence. Put it
Okay,
that
see,
way.
influence. This is what I'm after. So we saw an article published by AL.com where a superintendent in North Alabama claimed that school choice was costing his system hundreds of millions of dollars. He also said point blank that down in Montgomery, the legislature is considering about 40 different education-related bills they need to stop. What do you have to say about that?
I have several things to say. Number one, I think somebody needs some remedial math. Obviously, use Common Core, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think that number one, we talk about school choice a lot, but if you want to put it in perspective, if I gave you $50,000 and said, give me $600 back, that's the magnitude of the $100 million we're putting towards school choice in terms of what education community receives. So it's not the big focus. It should not be the focus. What they need to be focused on is fixing themselves. And there's a lot of things the public education system can do that they need to do that needs to come from within. We have 139 school districts and 67 counties. If we were to combine districts, we would be able to see some stretching of the dollars, some better usage of that dollars, less into overhead, more into the classrooms. My question would be, why did it take legislation to say you can't have cell phones in the classroom? Why did it take legislation to say you can't pass third grade if you can't read? Why did it take legislation to say if you can't be math proficient, that we're going to penalize that school, or we're going to maybe take over that school, convert that school? Why did it take legislation to say if a child is perennially, consistently misbehaving in classroom, that the teacher can put them out? Mm-hmm. My point is, there's a lot of things the public education system can do. We're going to continue to support public education. We're putting more dollars every year into it. We've added the RAISE Act, which gives money on top of the foundation program based on student needs. But that's just a smokescreen. It's nonsensical. Everybody in life today wants customization, flexibility, and choice in every aspect of our life. And yet we have this education box. We say, come into our box. You must start school this day. You can't get out before this day. You can only miss certain days in between. Here's how you have to do things. That's not the world we're in today. So opening that school choice door opens the door to customization, flexibility, and choice, which needs to happen in public education. And I will say some superintendents are doing that now. They're adapting, and we're seeing some positive results. But those numbers, number one, don't make sense. It's not accurate. And then in terms of magnitude, you're wasting time and energy that could be better focused on what you can control.
Talk us through the educational trust fund budget for this year. What changed? What did you add? I mean, we are spending more money than ever on education. Are we getting a good return on our investment there?
Well, I would say that if you go back to 2014, when I came in, we were number 49th in reading. In math, we were number 52 in reading. And today, in the most recent rankings nationwide, we are number 34 and number 32. So there's been progress. Mm-hmm. We were the only state that showed progress post-COVID, improvement post-COVID. Maybe Louisiana did on one of the scores. But so yes, we're doing some things that are positive that have moved the needle. We are spending record number. This is $10.5 billion. Every dime of it, income tax and most of the sales tax is earmarked the education budget. So that's where the money goes. But the legislature several years ago, Chairman Orr and I were able to get the legislature to adopt a provision that would limit our budget growth. It used to be that you would just project your revenue and you would budget off of that. Then if you got to halfway into the year and realized you were off, you had to start proration. Well, back in 2010, the Republicans took over. They set up the Rolling Reserve Act, which basically set up funds, kind of a forced 401k savings plan so you can avoid proration. That fund today has about $1 billion in it, but we can't touch that unless it's proration. But what we decided to do several years ago was, look, let's limit our budget growth. Rather than grow, say we project revenue to grow 6.5%, let's grow it less than that. So this year we grew it at 5.75%, which is the maximum now going forward we can grow that. And the money that we get in excess of that goes into waterfall. Some of that goes into the Rolling Reserve Act. Some goes into investment technology. Some goes into this new education reserve account, which the legislature controls. That's how we're funding school choice. That's how we're funding the RAISE Act. This year we added outcome-based funding for higher education, trying to drive outcomes in the education community for higher ed. And so that's one thing we added. We did add a micro school grant program this year for $500,000. I'm not well versed in what micro schools do, but they're popping up all over the country, and we're seeing them in Alabama. We'll have a grant program for that. But we fully funded numeracy, fully funded literacy. We gave a teacher raise. We had to navigate a huge request from the employee health insurance. They wanted almost $400 million. We gave them $180 million toward that. They're going to have to fix their problem, which is a problem that's not sustainable, by tapping into their trust or modifying their plans or their costs. So we did those type things. We've again, fully funded those initiatives. We also did another thing where we set up some buckets where we're tracking, for example, teacher recruitment's going on, was in a bunch of different line items. We pull it all together. Let's look at teacher recruitment. We set up a bucket for innovation, for pilot programs, for artificial intelligence. That's coming at us quickly, but we need to know how teachers need to handle that, how the students need to handle that. So we took some reputable pilot programs that we put in a bucket. We'll watch that and see how that goes. So I think, record funding, fully funding the initiatives that have worked, and maybe a few others that like, for example, the outcome-based funding for higher ed. Going ahead again, the second year of the CHOOSE Act. We'll see where that goes, where that grows. That's going to grow, and we'll just see how much. And then basing the funding on student needs from the RAISE Act is really, really important, because in Alabama, what we've always done is take the total dollars we have and divide that by the heads and say this is what everybody gets. But you have some systems that have a lot of needs, special needs. They have ELL needs. They have poverty. They have gifted programs, and we weren't funding those specifically. We're now beginning to do that.
Quick question. You talked about moving the needle, and we all were very excited to see, for example, with reading, we're growing. And I noticed in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, we're employing phonics again.
Right.
What are we doing with math? Are we veering away from Common Core math, or are we sticking with that? Like, tell me more about that.
Well, we have the Numeracy Act. You mentioned I'm a guru on education. We have education policy and education budgets.
Okay.
I'm not on policy, so I don't know all the details of the policy. But I will say that we're going back to maybe just the type of math that makes sense.
Okay.
Put it that way.
I'm for that.
And critical thinking is part of this. I mean, it's not just the way I did it back eons ago. It's a little more to it than that. But we basically put in some measures there and some requirements and some guidelines. And after 7 years, that seems like a long time, but it takes time to kind of get the ships turned around. After 7 years, if a school that's not proficient doesn't show adequate progress, then there's consequences. We will either take the school over at the state level, or we would convert that school to a charter school. And we've got 3 charter school conversions going on in Montgomery right now, and they're doing well. You have to look at the data underneath the data to see how the progress is occurring. But we're really optimistic about that. So the point is that we're going to demand that we meet the proficiency, and if we don't, there'll be consequences.
As we wrap up, what do you see coming through your committees for the next, I think y'all have 3 weeks left, maybe some spring break in there. What do you anticipate coming out of your committee from here?
So we have a couple of things we've been kind of sitting back on. Number one, we get the budgets passed. We've got a lot of requests for different tax credits, and we've been looking to try to reduce taxes, but we've got to balance that against, at the end of the day, what do we see revenue kind of stabilizing. So we've got to determine what makes sense. I think what we have 2 bills in committee this week I'm interested to hear about. One is an overtime bill. We had overtime bill before that was a year and a half sunset. It's sunsetted. That one was actually different than what the Trump overtime bill was. So this bill that Representative Lomax has in committee this week will kind of model what the Trump legislation did. I think that will help us eliminate some of the abuse that was going on with the previous bill. So that one's coming up in committee this week. The other one that's not gotten any publicity at all, but I'm really interested in, is we've got a bill that Representative Stubbs is carrying that will limit or clarify and restrict the ability of faculty senates in higher education. Similar legislation has passed in Florida and Texas. This also looks into some of the tenure opportunities there. I don't know how quickly that one might move, but I think that discussion needs to be had, and we'll have it this week in the committee. Those are two, but I would say the overtime is going to move. Of course, the education budget has moved upstairs to the Senate, so hopefully we'll have whatever changes they make would be something we can concur with. May have to go to committee, but I don't anticipate huge problems there.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Lots of good questions and answers, and education is something that kind of how both of us really got started in this, and we will watch closely and appreciate your time.
Thank
Really.
you for having me. It's good to be
Thank
with
you.
you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the right
Okay.
So they're good friends.
Yeah,
good
love
friends.
them. Welcome back to The Right Side. I am Amy Beth Shaver with Allison Sinclair. JP is running the show behind the scenes today. We are thrilled to be joined by Representative Susan DuBose, who has you continue to amaze and impress us with all that you've been able to get done down here. And right now, pre-show, we were talking about a bill that we would love for you to tell our audience about, because I think they'll be very interested.
Well, I keep hearing these bills that have the word sex in them. And my husband
Susan.
asked me, would you please stop hearing these bills that have the word sex in them? Because it's awkward for him. You know, men don't like discussing this stuff, but it's necessary in the world in which we live to take care of some of these issues. So I have taken it upon myself.
I can't think of
confront
anybody better, honestly.
the tough bills. Not that I don't like dealing with all the other things too. And look, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So we are balancing lots of important things down here in the State House. But what the sex ed bill does is it protects our students from inappropriate content in a sex ed class. And we have a lot of wonderful faith-based institutions that come in with nurses and teach appropriate content to our schools, to our students during health class. And a lot of the stuff they need to know now. They need to know about sexting. We added talking about sexting because what awful things can happen if you're doing that, about pornography online, bullying online. We talk about the success sequence, which means you graduate from high school, get married, and then have a baby, and you're like 99% chance of being successful in life. So there's a lot of good things that can be learned from sex ed class. There's also some very inappropriate content that people want to get in there and teach. And so we put a clause in there. If you are an abortion provider or if you support abortion, your group cannot come in and teach in our schools. That is the type of content. So take, for example, Planned Parenthood. They don't need to be teaching sex ed in our schools. They're going to go off in some areas that don't need to be discussed. We don't need.
Okay, are they in our schools?
They have been in the past.
Currently?
We're doing the best we can to make sure they're not in there now. And this bill will make sure they will never be in our schools because they have been in our schools before. And like-minded organizations like ACASH, URGE, there's all these groups, like-minded type organizations that don't need to be in our schools. So we're keeping them out.
How is it? Is it the State Department of Education gives school districts a few choices of who they can use?
Their child out. So all that is now in the law. And
Planned Parenthood get into the schools to try to teach them about sex ed. How do you think those kids figured it all out? Like, you're not
That's
even
right.
needed at all.
Yeah.
Teach
Yeah.
the appropriate things, but all these other, really?
Yeah.
We've existed for thousands of years, and suddenly y'all need to be the ones in
Yes,
school?
exactly. Yeah. Some of that stuff we never even, like, I could go my whole life, never know this stuff, be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Isn't that sad? And then with all of AI, I think that I don't know if that's part of what you're trying to alert kids to with
is constructive help.
Yeah.
Like kids sending each other videos and pictures of certain things. That's a felony. Don't do that.
Well, and they may or may not even be real. And you have kids
Yeah.
that are being bullied and kind of blackmailed and really
that
terrible
prevents
positions.
a lot
Yeah.
of that from happening
Yeah.
eventually. So
What else do you have? Any other sex bills?
well, that may be my only sex bill this year because I did already define male and female, which took a while, took
Yeah.
me 3 years. And protecting women in sports, I've done that one. But a fun bill is we have the Miss Alabama bill coming through, which allows Miss Alabama to be an official state ambassador. And you look, that 100-year-old organization, we know how great those girls are. And so I've had Miss Alabama Emma Terry down here. I said, whip up the boat. So she's been whipping up the boat.
did.
And hopefully soon it's going to be on the Senate floor, and that's the last step. And it'll go on to the governor's office.
What does that mean, be an official ambassador?
So Miss Alabama can partner with state agencies or any state program to promote them. Why
Okay.
shouldn't we put some of our best assets forward? These smart, articulate girls, let them speak for our state. And it's just it's a voluntary partnership on both ends. So that's kind of fun. And either that day in education committee at 12:15, I'm also presenting a report card of our teacher prep programs in all of our universities. So we want to track, are these schools teaching what they're supposed to be teaching? How many teachers are passing the praxis exam? Are they getting jobs? Are they getting jobs in our state? If they're not, about $13 billion. And we're talking only $250 million for school choice. So for those children to be able to choose the pathway that's going to make them the most successful is imperative. And I'm for all things school choice. I'm also going to be looking further into more tailor-made programs for students. So say you're a homeschool student and you want to take French at a public school that offers it, and they have room for you, why not let them?
Yes.
Or if you even have a private school student maybe that wants to take calculus 2 or one of these other classes that there's just not enough of them in one setting to provide a teacher for, let them pay a fee and take it at a public school. So I want to see more tailor-made education. So that was important to me that $250 million went through on education choice. And to see the students that are participating in that now, I mean, they are reflective of the demographics in our state. These are all, for the first 2 years, low-income students. Their families all make less than $95,000. So that's one of the claims AEA had, that this was going to be a rich kid program. Absolutely wrong. There are no rich kids in this program. And even when we go universal, the students that participate, it's going to be ranked by income. So the lower income ones are going to have first priority.
Wow.
From the outside, and I know we've got to wrap up, you have a committee meeting. From the outside, it looks like there was way more interest and enrollment in the school choice program than maybe the legislature or Montgomery anticipated. Is that accurate?
Well, we were hoping there would be a lot of
Right.
interest, and we funded it for a lot of interest. So it was properly funded. And I was ecstatic to see that the interest level
At the $250 million level, will that
I'm glad
far we're still in full gauge.
Welcome back to The Right Side. I am Amy Beth Shaver with Allison Sinclair. JP is here running the show today, as you know. Thank you for joining us. We are thrilled to be joined by Representative Matt Simpson. Sir, how are you?
I am doing much better now. I still got a little ways to recovery. I'm not 100%, but I'm much better now than I was before. That's for sure.
We're glad to hear it.
Well, thank you.
So you've done quite a bit. You've accomplished amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
Talk us through things that you're most proud of this session.
This session, I'm extremely proud of the child predator death penalty bill that passed, where it would allow for the death penalty to be used in cases where children are raped or victims of rape, sodomy, or sexual torture. I've prosecuted those cases in my career, and I've seen what that does to families, what that does to victims. There's no recovery from that. We can do everything we can, but those people, those children's lives are changed forever. Their innocence is taken. And because of that, I don't think you can rehabilitate someone that's done that to a child that young. And that is the worst of the worst offenses. And in my opinion, it deserves the worst of the worst punishments. And I'm optimistic of this movement that's going across the country to try to bring back the death penalty for child rapists. I'm happy that we were the 6th state to pass it. I think there are other states on the way, and we're taking a serious challenge at the Supreme Court ruling to overturn their ruling in Kennedy versus Louisiana.
With the border problems, there's a lot of talk about human trafficking, and to me, some of those issues go hand in hand. What did you discover as you were researching for this bill and passing it, and what can the state do to curb human trafficking and some of the illegal immigration problems here?
You know, human trafficking is unfortunately, it's brought into our society more than it should be. You used to think about, well, what is really human trafficking? And nobody really understood what it was. The national media has really picked up on what's going on. It's probably because the border has been open. You see what's being brought in, and you see how they treat children. Unfortunately, they use children as a renewable resource. That instead of drugs where they can sell them one time, they sell children multiple times. And it's unfortunate. We need to do more. I'm very happy that I think it was 2 years ago we passed the mandatory life in prison for human traffickers. So I'm very happy that we're doing that. But I think we need to help our law enforcement partners more and allow the sheriffs and the police officers and FBI and ALEA and everyone involved in this we need to give them the resources that they need to be able to prosecute these cases. The DA's office, they've got to find these children because it's worth it. People ask all the time, well, isn't that just an expense? Isn't that something that you've you're asking these departments to pay for, you're asking these prosecutors to pay for, and it's something we should look for in the budgets to give them more money to their budgets, because it's important. It's important to our youth. It's important to our children to be able to, not worry about what's going to happen to them, and they should go learn and be kids and experience life and not have that dark side of humanity that's been so prevalent in society anymore.
You bring you're incredibly tough on crime. Talking about not just the child trafficking, and we're so thankful for what you've done with the death penalty for child sexual assault. But let's talk about fentanyl, mandatory sentencing. Talk us through that, because we have a huge problem.
We do. I'm very pleased that the problem is getting much better. I think that we owe that to President Trump and what they've done to the border, how they've really, really strengthened our border in the past few years under President Trump, Department of Homeland Security, what they've done. Because of that, deaths are down. Deaths are down in Alabama across the board for fentanyl overdoses. In 2023, when we passed that bill, it was kind of getting to the peak of what was going on because the border was open. You had these people that were the drug traffickers already had the system in place to be able to traffic the marijuana and the heroin. They were being able to get this fentanyl from the time, I've been told, from the time it crossed the border, they could have it in Alabama in a dealer's hands within 24 to 36 hours. And that's crazy, but just because they already had the infrastructure in place to reach to the dealers. What we wanted to do with that one was not necessarily go after the users, the people that are addicts, the people that have got it addicted to fentanyl. We wanted to go after the people that were trafficking. We wanted to go after the people, the main suppliers, those that were bringing that across the border. And what happens is they'll cut it up or they'll mix it into other things. We wanted to get the pure fentanyl. We wanted to go after the people because that's the supplier. Those are the people that really have all of the pure fentanyl to come through. And so we went after that. I think Senator April Weaver, who's a good friend of mine, is working to try to increase that a little more to find the punishment for fentanyl when it's mixed with others. Because the bill that we passed in 2023 is just for pure fentanyl. Her bill she's working on, I believe, will have the mixture, increase the punishment for the mixtures. And I'm excited about that as well. I think that, fentanyl, we're getting better on it, but we still have a long way to go. Unfortunately, people don't know what's really in the drugs that they buy. I've got an 18-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl, and it's sad that you have to have these conversations. Now he's a rule follower. I don't have to worry about any of that. But I talk to him about his friends, and people start thinking, oh well, when I was 16 or 17, when I was in high school, and it was just you could have marijuana, and I mean that's not the same marijuana that it was from the 70s and 80s. And people now, the fentanyl is laced, marijuana is laced with fentanyl. People don't know what they're taking. They think they're taking something that's just going to, just give them a high for a moment or just kind of help them at a party or something like that. But if it's mixed with fentanyl, it could kill you. It could kill you very, very easily. I think a packet, and I did this on a presentation on the floor, like one of those little packets of sugar, like if you're at a coffee shop and you're the one right there, packets of sugar is lethal enough to kill 500 people. If that was pure fentanyl, that could kill 500 people from just that packet, from 1 gram like that.
We interviewed a few years ago the father of the son that died in Auburn. Do you remember that story? And you were talking about kids being able to have such quick access to drugs in general and drugs that they're never sure. He had bought what he thought was a Percocet off of Snapchat. I guess Snapchat has drug menus that you can order from.
Social media scares the death out of me. I promise you. What they can do on social media now is just absolutely crazy.
It is very frightening. He took his sister to Bible study, went home, said he didn't want to watch a movie with his family, went to bed, and they found him dead in his bed the next morning. And you're right. You never know what you are getting these days. So we appreciate your effort on that. There's only, I feel like the federal government needs to step in. Maybe that's what's happening now, hopefully.
They've done a lot to close the border, and that's been a tremendous help to stop the access to it. I think it's tough getting Washington to agree on anything and do anything. So I think I'm very happy that the state has taken a lead in that.
Right.
Because we can't just wait for Washington to fix the problem, because we'll be waiting for some time if we do that.
Have you heard from Aaliyah and just people kind of on the ground that it really has slowed down? Have they seen a decrease in
I've heard from our
what's flowing?
sheriffs. I've
Yeah.
heard from our coroner. The deaths in Baldwin County specifically, where I represent, have gone down significantly. I mean, it's not 100%. Like it's not.
Right.
There's still a ways to go, but it was peaking and rising up before we passed the bill, and after we passed the bill, it has gone down significantly, noticeably. So that's something I'm very proud of. It's good to see when laws work like this to say, hey, I think we got the message out of, if you're trafficking in fentanyl, don't cross the border, don't come to Alabama. You know, you can go other states, but don't come to this one.
Real quickly, before I know you have things to do, it's a busy day here. Any other bills that you are specifically watching that you're looking for to maybe pass, get out of committee this session?
Yeah, I've got a bill. I've got a couple bills in committee today. We've got an issue in Baldwin County specifically with the solar farms issue that's come up.
Yes.
It's a huge deal. What happened was this just popped up out of nowhere. A lot of the community wasn't aware of it. Stockton is an unincorporated area. It's got about 600 residents, and down in our area, Baldwin County, you know, everybody thinks everybody's county special, but Baldwin County is right there on the water, and so you have a lot of potential ground displacement through this solar farm. That stormwater runoff, if it gets into the Tensas River, can get into the bay, and you just want to make sure. We want to support solar farms and support what they're doing, but they've got to be done. There's got to be some regulation. There's got to be some environmental impact to make sure that what they're doing is good for all the people around it. I'm all about property rights, and I understand people have the right for their property, but you don't have the right to affect other people's property with what you do with your property.
Right.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you,
and
guys.
I'm glad to see you're doing well and you're back. And I know it's probably nice to get back into a rhythm and get back down to Montgomery.
I'm not 100%. You know, I've still got a ways to go. I'm very thankful for the doctors at UAB and the doctors at back home. You know, it was a scary situation. It was something that my wife and family have been fantastic to go through, but they monitor me well. My diet has changed significantly. I lost about 35 pounds in 2-3 weeks, and I wouldn't recommend that for anybody in this way.
Well, Rightside, there you go.
There you go.
Got a good
But
start.
it's I can't thank the hospitals and the doctors enough. It was a scary situation. You hear some words you don't want to hear through this process, and it's like, okay, let's see what we can do. And my wife has been fantastic. She's home preparing meals and doing everything, and she sends it up to Montgomery with me. And so I've got lunch and dinner packed, and I have to be very, very cautious of what I'm doing. I'm not 100%, so I can't stay on the floor 100% of the time right now. I'm slowly building up stamina, but the prayers, so many people prayed, so many reached out about prayers, and I needed every one of them. And I'm very grateful to everybody across the state who prayed and supported us and sent the text messages and the messages. And I'm so grateful for everyone that did that.
Well, it's great to see you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you guys for what you do.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be back.
Welcome back to The Right Side. I'm Amy Beth Shaver with Allison Sinclair. Thrilled to be joined by Representative Ernie Yarbrough. Good sir, you have had a little thing go on today
Yes.
about the primaries. Could you talk to us about that?
Sure. No, I figured, well, if I'm going to come to Montgomery, you might as well not do anything but go big or go home. So apparently I don't know how to file any other bills than those kind, apparently. So, but no, so, from the time that I was raised, homeschooled and knocking doors, and I actually grew up knocking doors with John Wall and other folks in the Republican Party. We were taught to believe our principles. We read the Constitution, the Bible, the Declaration, all those things, and that we needed to lean into what we believed was our party platform, what we believed was right. And so, the idea behind the closed primary being that a party has the right to not only nominate its nominees, but a party exists in connection to what the people understand the platform is, right? So when I go to vote for a Republican or a Democrat, most Americans have a conscious awareness of kind of what that means because those parties have platforms. So I think it's really important as we talk about election integrity, Save America Act, whatever in DC, that at every point in the process of our election, of the process of election, state and federal, that we need structural integrity and clarity. It's really important. So the concept behind closing the primaries in Alabama, what my bill does is right now, if someone says today, I'm a registered Republican or I'm a registered Democrat, well, we actually don't have that in Alabama. So maybe they did something at the federal level or with the national RNC or the national DNC or whatever. But as far as the state is concerned, there is no party registration. So the way that this works is the way that the bill is written is come January 1st of 27, we would all be marked as unaffiliated, which we kind of already are, officially as far as the Secretary of State's voter information or whatever. And so then you can register. So you can register in one of three ways. So after January 1st, if you go to register to vote, you will have on the form, you'll be able to choose your Republican, Democrat, or unaffiliated. Okay. If you skip that or don't fill it in for some reason, you'll be marked as unaffiliated, right? Second way you can register with a party is you can just go to the Board of Registrars and do it there. The third way is you can do it online with the Secretary of State. And if you miss all of that, we don't want you getting penalized as a voter. You can just show up at the polls and pick a primary or a primary runoff ballot, right? If you skip the primary and go to the runoff because you missed the primary or whatever, either way, if you pick a primary ballot or a primary runoff ballot, picking that ballot will register you for that party, right? That's the on-ramp system. Okay. So that's the concept behind it. So then there's a 60-day there's a blackout period that starts 60 days before the primary through the corresponding general election. And what that means is within that 60-day before the primary through the general, you can't swap your party registration, right? So the idea there is obviously if you're unaffiliated and that's all you've ever been, you just show up and vote and you get registered, but you can't swap from one party to another party inside that blackout period. And the reason for that is very simple. Is two reasons. Number one, that's why it's a closed primary. You're closing the primary for people to vote for the nomination of their party, right? Primaries belong to parties. Now, another interesting fact behind that is people don't realize too that oftentimes when you go to vote in a primary for a party, you're also oftentimes voting for either local or state executive committee members. What party in their right mind wants somebody who's not part of their party choosing their local or state executive committee members? Well, that's like if you had a rural electrical co-op and they mail out the ballots to vote for your leadership on the co-op or whatever, the co-op cooperative board. They don't mail them to people outside of the cooperative district. That'd be stupid. You wouldn't do that, right? And that's the equivalent of what we currently have in Alabama, allowing that. So we want structural integrity. We want Republicans nominating Republicans and Democrats, as well as the local and state executive committee members who set the policy of the party. But also that 60-day window beforehand is there because legally at 55 days before the primary, by state law, statute, the probate judge of the county is required to take the voter data and deliver it to the absentee election manager 55 days before the primary. so that the absentee election manager can do their job of delivering absentee ballots to those who request them. Right. So there's a legal reason. Now, if that window was say 30 days as opposed to 55, we could tighten our window down to 35. Right. But there's a legal reason for that. And then obviously a conceptual reason that if you're going to close the primaries, you can't be swapping parties during the primary. Now, we do allow outside the blackout period because, we would love for more people, as a Republican who believes in my party platform. I would love to welcome more people into the Republican camp who believe in the party platform. So it's not a way of shutting people out, which is why outside the blackout period of that 60 days before through the general, once you get past the general, you have all the way to that next blackout period, you're going to have 2 years later, you can swap your party registration, right? So does it stop all crossover voting? I mean, if you're literally swapping your primary party registration every single primary just to vote for someone, it's probably pretty rare, right? But it does provide a very easy path for people to swap their parties if they say, you know what, I really think boys can't become girls. And I really think we shouldn't chop off our kids' private parts. I really think that maybe I've been wrong about keeping these nasty books out of the libraries. Then I want them to come to our party and stand with us because our future depends on it.
So your closed primary bill just passed committee.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the vote?
It was 4-3.
Oh,
Okay.
2 Republicans sadly could not be there. I-65, as I believe you had someone here earlier today.
I meant to
who
ask.
who lovingly
Yes.
refers to that as a giant parking lot.
Yes.
So there was a wreck and a fire and then a parking lot experience that delayed 2 of our members who were Republican. So the vote was 4-3 along party lines.
Okay. If you look at the sponsor, yourself and co-sponsors, it's you get to the last name and Nathaniel Ledbetter, the speaker, is on there,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
is very encouraging.
Sure.
How is the House feeling about this bill? Do you think it will pass? And if it makes it to the Senate, what are you hearing from over there?
Sure. No, I do believe that it will pass the House. We're hearing that it will be the Thursday's hot agenda item on the floor. So, God willing, it will. I'm confident we have the votes to pass it in the House. And then obviously there are people who have been already for a few weeks working the Senate, having those discussions. That's going to continue. Senator Sam Gavan is carrying it upstairs. As well as my Lake and Riley Act that's on the floor today. He's carrying it upstairs. That's a separate bill, separate topic, but would have kept 3 people alive who are now dead in Alabama. I don't know if you Mobile, Baldwin County situation, but separate topic. Either way, we want to do right by our people. So Senator Gavan is a great asset, and I think he was vice party chair for, if he's not, I don't think he still is, but he was, I think, apparently for years before I got involved in politics. So he's a lawyer, so he understands that from the legal and the party perspective very clearly. So he's a great asset and ally to have upstairs. I know Lieutenant Governor Ainsworth is very supportive of this, and several others as well. So I guess I would say I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I don't know if you were watching, but Lieutenant Governor Ainsworth said he felt good about it. So
I'm cautiously optimistic.
I'm hoping that is accurate. Thank you for being here. We will be watching along for sure. This is an issue that we've been talking about, especially since 2022, that election. Closed primaries has been a hot topic.
Thank you.
I'm the one.
You are the one. Appreciate you being here. Y'all, we are going to take a quick break and we will be back with Speaker of the House, Nathaniel Ledbetter, and ALGOP Chairman Scott Stadhagen. You're on the right side. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the Right Side. And let's be honest, this is the moment you've tuned in for, isn't it? I'm Amy Beth Shaver with Allison Sinclair. JP's keeping us together today behind the scenes, but we're thrilled and honored to be joined by Speaker of the House, Nathaniel Ledbetter, and Chairman of the Alabama Republican Party and Representative Scott Hagan from Hartselle, Rainsville, right?
Yeah, that's
You're
right.
Rainsville.
I'm
You're
Rainsville.
Hartselle.
It's good to
Okay.
be here.
I wish we had more time to tell you that my dad used to moonlight at the hospital there, and I got to spend the night in the little call room. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's safe to say a lot has happened over the last couple of weeks, and this might not be what people expected, is the two of y'all sitting down right here with us. Talk us through how we got here.
Well, certainly good to be here with you guys. Thank you for having us, and certainly good here to be with the new chairman of the party. And Scott and I have had a lot of discussion over the last week since he's got elected, and he certainly has my full support. I think he's going to do a really good job and look forward to his leadership. And I think he can bring the party together in a way that maybe somebody else couldn't. So I congratulate him on that position.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you guys for having us on. I think it's an exciting moment from here for Alabama with the House of Representatives, our caucus, and the party coming together, and looking forward to the work that we're going to have going in the future. And it's exciting for tomorrow.
Talk to us real quickly about the party for now. Does it feel united behind you? Are you feeling good about where you're going and how everybody is lined up behind you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have already hit the ground running. Matter of fact, yesterday we had a meeting with all the county chairmen, kind of seeing what their needs are and what's working, what's not working. So we're literally starting from the bottom, working our way up. But the biggest thing is a team, like we have with our caucus, working as a team, and then we're going to unite that gap between the party and the legislature for us to work together, because we're all Republicans, right? So I think it's going to be a very interesting, unique situation. I'm looking forward to it.
Talk to us, if you would please, sir, about the caucus and where everybody is right now and what you guys would like to do over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think the caucus is in a good position. I mean, we had a very good meeting last week, and we just need to go forward. That's what we told the caucus, and now's the time to move forward, and they're doing that. We'll have some strong legislation coming up today. The closed primary passed out of the committee, so we'll have it on the floor Thursday. That's a speaker's pick. I'm going to pick it for Thursday, so we'll get to see it on the floor. So I think we got a lot of good legislation out there, some of it in the Senate that we've passed through the House, some of it vice versa. So certainly got to get the budgets out. Passed the ETF off the floor last week. Look to get the general fund the week after spring break. So we'll kind of finish up some things we got going, but it's going well. I think the people out there will be proud of the work together with the House and the Senate and with the governor's office. So we hope to continue that and look forward to finishing up strong.
I'm curious, this question is for both of y'all, so you'll have to pass the mic back and forth, but whoever wants to answer it first, how do you view what is the proper role and partnership between the caucus and the party? There's been lots of debate about that, how much influence each should have going forward. How do you feel about the relationship?
Well, I will say, Scott and I have talked about that already, and he's got an idea that I support of getting me and the pro tem and the governor-elect together and sitting down and looking at some bills that we can all agree on. I don't think we've ever done that before, Scott, and I think it's a smart idea and gets us all on the same page. And I think that's being really proactive and trying to choose legislation that not only the party would like, but the people of Alabama.
Yeah, really excited about next quadrennium and next session, just to see us come together and work together as a team, because we're all Republicans. We have the same beliefs, right? So having that with legislation and party coming together, and hopefully, the bill package that we present to the governor, pro tem, and the speaker, we get that through, and we're really going to have like a Republican Day at the Capitol, and we're going to have all the state executive members there, and that night hopefully celebrate. And it's going to be a celebration for Republicans throughout the whole entire state, and I'm looking forward to it. So, and as far as our caucus members go, they're Republicans, conservative. We're literally one of the most conservative bodies in the United States. So we're hand in hand moving forward.
Speaker Ledbetter, this question is for you. We kind of talked to some people because over the past few weeks, there's been a lot of discussion about leadership. There's been some transitions about some of the, asking people what the main complaints against leadership or you in the speaker's office specifically. One of the issues that came up repeatedly was just the push for gambling, which I think is just kind of across the board. One person said, though, that too often the priority seems to go to bills backed by special interests or those closest to leadership rather than allowing a fair, open process where conservative priorities rise naturally. What do you say to those criticizing you and the agenda of leadership? Because if you look, you have passed some really conservative things over the past quadrennium.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the record of this last quadrennium, I mean, it doesn't, just look at what's been passed. There's no question this is the most conservative quadrennium this state's ever had, period. If you look at my record as Speaker and Majority Leader, it's the most conservative the state's ever had. I mean, all you got to do is look at what we've passed. If it's DEI or if it's, the Choose Act or whatever, which we led the charge on helping getting that passed. It was a pig. A lot of things Scott passed, the boys and girls bathroom thing. I mean, this has been the most conservative 4 years that we've had. And as far as the special interest group, they all stay in my office and they'd know more about what they're talking about. Because there was two of them in there Friday, and I told them no. And one of them was Alpha on an ambulance bill that I think could serve rural Alabama very well. And the same thing with Blue Cross and those people. We tell them no more than we tell them yes. And so I think people that says that need to probably work a little bit harder to figure out what is going on, and they wouldn't have to make statements like that.
So then on the heels of that question, what did it mean to have 75 members of the House, Tuberville, support you?
It's humbling. I mean, it really is. I didn't ask for that. I mean, they did that on their own. And of course, Coach has been a friend of mine for a long time. I chaired his U.S. Senate race. And so, but to have that many members and Scott being one of them that signed that document, it was very humbling. I mean, it really was. And, the thing about it is, I think it's easy sometimes for people to say negative stuff about people they don't know. And the problem with that is it doesn't just affect the person you're talking about, it affects their family. Whether it's their grandkids or their wife or their kids. And sometimes I think we have to be mindful of that. So, to see after on the backside of it, to see that and to see our members come together and support me, it's really, really humbling.
It's hard. It is hard being on the outside. We're not privy to a lot of the discussions that are had in the halls. And hopefully this can be kind of a transition point of inflection for Alabama, for the legislature, for the party, for the people. And that's a question I have for both of y'all. Is this a turning point for the state of Alabama? It felt a little bit like crossing the Delaware. We were like, oh, we're in new territory. And then being here today, I mean, this is huge to see y'all sitting down together, kind of tackling this head on. I know the people of Alabama will appreciate that. But moving forward, and you mentioned a little bit plans to open up discussions. Can you expand a little bit more on that? How is this different, and how are we going to put this behind us?
Yeah, so I mean, our caucus has always been together, right? So we are a team. We're kind of like an executive session when we're in caucus. So the things that we discuss and things we talk about are with us and our team. As far as moving forward in the future, I think, with the party members of ALGOP and then our caucus, I mean, once again, we're all Republicans. We're all on the same team. Some of us serve at a different capacity than others. Some are more vocal than others in the party side. And we've got to respect different personalities. Y'all just had Ernie Yarbrough on the show, for crying out loud. He's a different personality, right? So he is very passionate about his beliefs. And you just got different. It's like a family. You've got different personalities in your family. And I think moving forward, I'm extremely excited about tomorrow. I really am, because I think it's going to be something that our state has never seen before. The leadership in this body and then also leadership in our party, we are literally going to bridge that gap that literally we have never seen before. And I just cannot wait till it happens.
So staying with you, sir.
Oh, okay.
just real quick. Sorry.
Next time we're going to be sure and get you a
You're like,
smaller microphone.
That's okay.
The only thing that would have made it better is like a little fuzzy dice, making it look like that.
I think it's supposed to sit on top of it.
It is.
We're not that
And
fancy
Can y'all
yet
not
either.
afford those either,
Yeah,
man? Come on. I mean,
we
Fuzzy dice.
can. This turned around so quickly, and we're so glad to be here that you gotta, we're making do.
yes.
Okay. These are awesome. I've always wanted these little lapel mics. I'm just saying. Why did you want to run for ALGOP chairman?
Yeah, so it never was on my radar, to be honest. I don't personally believe in titles. I believe in making an impact, the biggest impact I can. And there were certain things that took place after several phone calls and laying in bed. My wife and I were just talking about, and your spouse is your best friend, and you talk about things with her. And she looked and she said, I think you would be a really good party chairman. Like, that's in your wheelhouse. And I was like, I think I would like that, and prayed about it. And honestly, once I decided to run, and literally everything was falling in place, and that's why I feel like when you're on God's path, things just naturally happen. You're not fighting against the grain on things. But that's really it. It wasn't on my radar whatsoever. And when we decided to do it, everything just literally fell in place. And I knew it was God's plan for me to do this.
I guess we touched a little bit about some of the things that under your leadership have happened in the House: tax cuts, school choice, tough on crimes law, DEI bans, transgender sports ban. Am I missing anything else?
China. You're missing a
China.
lot. Yeah. We've been property from, yeah, absolutely.
So do you feel like some people in Alabama have lost sight in all the hubbub and all the chatter that's going on? And what are your priorities for the rest of this session? And maybe, I know y'all plan ahead. It catches me off guard every time. Like, if we're not planning 2 years ahead, y'all have beat us in our, kind of what we want to lobby for in Montgomery. What do you see coming next quadrennium as well?
Yeah, I think you're right. First of all, the first part of your question, I think, it's almost because of the social media and the world we live in today, it's changed. It's almost about what we've done today instead of what we've done over the past quadrennium. And Scott's right. I mean, if you Google the most conservative legislative body in the country, it's going to come up Alabama's number one. And it's because of the bills that you mentioned, a lot of them. I mean, the tax cuts has been $1.5 billion in the last 4 years alone. We've had a tax cut in every session. We got one this session on overtime. So, I mean, it's been a good 4 years. Our body has worked extremely hard. We got good men and women that serve. And Scott was talking about the reason he run for the chairman. I mean, the reason I got in leadership was because we were going through the turmoil when I first got elected, as you remember, with the Hubbard and all that went on with him and the governor and even the Supreme Court justice. That was all at one time within a few months of each other. So the reason I ran at the time is because some of the best people I had ever met, I served with in the House of Representatives. And I thought, if we can give them a platform where we can show the kind of people they are and let people know we serve with good people, and we really do. I mean, Scott and I are both the same way. I mean, there's not a place that I go in this state that I can't pick up a phone and say, listen, my car is broke down. Can you come and help me? And I promise you, within just a period of time, you'd have help from somebody. So that was my intent in getting in and running for leadership to begin with. So I think those people are still serving. Some of the faces change as we go forward. But, our state has been blessed. I mean, we have had the most successful run in economic development in the state's history. We're in the top 5 in shipbuilding, automobiles, airplanes, and now being a Lawston and with the submarine. I mean, we've never seen that before. Research, we're in the top 5. Agriculture, we're actually number 2. I mean, our state is moving at a pace that we have never seen before. And I think sometimes we always wonder what we can do next. But I think we also got to look back and celebrate what we have done too.
So let's talk, because it's happening very soon. The closed primary bill came through Matt Simpson's committee. What is the bill exactly, and what are the plans for it?
Yeah, I don't mind talking on this one at all. I think I'll let you talk about the plans for it, and I'll just kind of discuss. So watched it because we had a public hearing last week. Ernie Arborough is a sponsor, and I think it's time. It's time for us to pick our party lines and pick your teams and support your teams and vet the people that are going to be a part of your team, right? So right now, if you're a Democrat, you can literally you can participate in our primaries if you want to, right? Basically, if this bill becomes law, when you go and when they ask you after your driver's license, your valid driver's license at the polls, they're going to ask you Republican or Democrat. And whatever you request is you just registered, right? So then we already got a law now that if you do pick a Republican ballot and there's a runoff, you can't flip flop, right? So if you're a Democrat, you can't vote in our runoffs. That's already law. So we might as well just do it with the primaries as well. But let's say you want to change your mind. 60 days before the next primary, all you do is fill out paperwork and you can change your decision. Now, 60 days was the big question mark. And I found out it's because that's when the absentees were sent out. So that was the only reason why, because 30 days, some thought that had been more appropriate, wasn't feasible just because of the absentee ballots. But I think at the end of the day, we've got different parties. I mean, you picked your sides, you're on the team. I don't see the big deal personally. I think it gives more structure to our party, to each party, to the Democrats and Republicans. They don't want us middling in theirs, and we don't want them middling in ours, right? So I just think it's a solid move moving forward for our election integrities.
Do you see it passing the House?
I
And
do.
what
I
are the
do.
chances in the
Yeah.
Senate?
I think we get it through the House. I think there will be conversation, and we've talked about that some. I mean, we've always tried to be, as Speaker with the gal, we always try to be amenable to both sides, in a debate. And I know that we'll probably have a lot of debate on the bill. After a period of time, we'll move forward. If we have to cloture, we will. I do think we'll be able to get it out of the House. I'll be surprised if we don't. Of course, we'll go into caucus meeting tomorrow. We'll have a better idea where everybody stands and what they're thinking. And that's when they get a chance to hear whatever they have to say, good, bad, or ugly. And so we'll get to see that tomorrow and have a good idea. But I feel good about it. I think we can get out of the House. And one thing for sure, we'll know Thursday.
Let's look ahead to a Governor Tuberville administration. Those are big changes that are on the horizon. Talk to us about what you guys hope will happen. What kind of changes, what kind of legislation? I know we want to keep on this path, but what else?
Yeah, I mean, I of course, knowing Coach like I do, and like I said, serving with him as chairman of his U.S. Senate campaign, and we talked to him yesterday. I'm excited. I mean, can you just imagine, with everything we got going on, with all the incentives that the House and the Senate has passed to give tools, Alabama ranks number 8 in businesses wants to come to our state. Can you just imagine what it's going to look like when we got a recruiter sitting in that chair? And you got to think about that. I mean, that's what he's done. That's what he has done his whole life. I mean, who better to recruit industry than Tommy Tuberville? I mean, I think Governor Ivey's done a good job. I won't say anything but positive things about her. And the one thing you find out about me, I don't say negative things in the public about people or about other House or Senate or governors. But I'm excited knowing his personality like I do and knowing him being a people person like he is. I mean, I've been in restaurants before with him when he just disappears and he's in the back helping the waiter getting, or helping to come. That's just who he is. And that's not a put on. I mean, he is a people person. And I can only imagine, if with the tools that we give him to be able to recruit industry, what kind of jobs we can bring to Alabama, what kind of opportunities our kids will have and grandkids because of it. So I'm excited. I really am. I think it's one of those things we can all look forward to, and it's going to be different. And he's going to make some tough changes. And I'm kind of excited. I know what some of them are. I don't know all of them.
Can you talk about them?
No.
That was way too fast.
That's his platform. That's not mine. That's his. No, I think it's going to be exciting. Yeah.
I've always said I think he has the potential to be the best governor Alabama's ever had. So we're looking forward to it. How does you plan as chairman to work with Coach Tuberville governor. What are we going to call him?
We call him coach. I mean,
He's still going to be coach.
I don't think he's going to accept
Okay.
governor.
He doesn't want to be
So we can't call him like
the
OG,
governor.
You know, or,
Y'all can call him whatever you want.
Okay.
I mean,
Governor.
governor.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, going back to talking about him as a recruiter, I still have my college letters from him at Ole Miss with his John Hancock at the bottom of it.
Wow.
That was
Where
a long
did you
time
end up
ago.
going?
West Alabama.
Okay.
And he played with my son.
I did.
That's a small world.
It is.
Did you tell Coach Tuberville no? You just don't think he's a good coach? Like, I'm going.
No, actually, I think he left before the season started, to be honest. But no, I think, look, you asked me a separate question than the speaker. What was your question?
I don't even know.
Y'all sidetracked me.
Hold on.
How do you want to work with them? What are your plans?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Amy Beth.
Yeah. So,
The coffee.
so after I was elected party chair, I had a really good conversation with Jordan DeFexis, who is chief of staff for him now. And just hearing his excitement of the future of our state and what they plan on doing and how they're going to do it, like really got me excited for tomorrow. I think it is going to be different. I think, what we've learned about Coach and his leadership in the United States Senate is he is tough, and right is right and wrong is wrong. And we need that in that chair. Not that Kay is not. She is definitely tough, but I think he brings a new dynamic with his recruiting skills, but also his toughness as well. And I think that's going to be interesting to see. He is not going to back down from a fight if it comes about. But I think he's going to elevate our state to a whole nother level.
What else do you want we the people to know about this session and any other hopes that you have for Alabama?
Go ahead.
I think this session was, I think honestly, at the end of the day, it was a very good session. It bonded our family stronger than we ever have before. And a lot of things that y'all don't know from the outside, just like I can't tell you how many tears I've cried with my teammates or how many laughs I've shared with my teammates. And that's something that's private for us. How many laughs and tears this guy and I have had, how many prayers him and I have sat down next to each other and have had, and how many golf rounds we've had. You don't, like, outside looking in, you don't see all the stuff but we have the strongest family that you could ever have right now. And I mean, I think that's what this session has actually accomplished for us. And I'm really, really proud to be a part of this family.
No, I think he makes a great point. He's right. I think sometimes when we have things that happen that we don't foresee, it brings people closer together. And I do believe that's happened with our body inside the caucus. I really do. And as far as the golf game, I think I can beat him. I don't think I can hit it as far as he can. The only request we both have is he's got to bring his boom box, and Jamie Johnson's got to be on it, right? Or Alabama.
That's right.
Just grab them from up in Fort Payne. Just bring them along for golf. You don't even have to put them on the boom box.
Just have them in the back with a microphone.
Yeah, we could do that.
They do that for
I
y'all.
could caddy. You can play with them.
I have started playing golf.
Have you really?
Yeah, I'm terrible, but I would cheer y'all on. And if y'all do play golf, maybe we could live stream it.
Yeah,
it'd be like carpool karaoke,
Absolutely.
golf
Make sure
cart
if you
karaoke.
Yes.
If you do live stream it, you have to be behind us because you don't want to be in danger.
No, we don't.
You hadn't-
No,
you hadn't
we
seen
do
us
not.
yet.
No, we don't.
That's our next move.
Yeah.
We'll get better microphones for that. But
All right.
so continue your thoughts because I know y'all have to go gavel in and
Right.
start session. But what you're thankful, and at the end we're moving forward and we're better for it.
That's right. No, I agree. I think that's exactly right. I think that's, I always said God's always got a purpose. And he puts you where he wants you to be. And I truly believe that. And sometimes he humbles us, and makes us stronger. And certainly I believe this is one of those times when, like Scott said, we've talked a lot probably in the last 3 weeks. We've prayed together and cried together and laughed together. So, you want to do it because you think you can make a difference. And, it's like me, when I first started this, it was a tremendous pay cut for me to do this job. And, one of my days last week was I left home at 5:30 and got in bed at 12 o'clock. That was a Tuesday. Tuesday is usually a long day. But you do it because you give opportunity to kids. that may not have it. I mean, we see new jobs coming to Alabama that we've never seen before that gives opportunity for a better Alabama. You know, my thing was this year when I chaired the Southern Legislative Conference over the Southern states is I wanted them to see who we are today in Alabama, not who we were in the 70s and 60s, but who Alabama. We're a different Alabama. We're a new Alabama. And I think us working together and moving this state forward, I mean, we've all got people, you know, one of the reasons when I first ran for city council, I did it because I want to make sure my kids would have opportunities. You know, it's changed a little bit. My hair's got a little grayer, but now I do it because I want my grandkids to have opportunities. I mean, what better legacy could we leave than to make it better for our grandkids and other Alabamans' grandkids than when we started?
I genuinely appreciate y'all sitting down today. I think
Truly.
we're better for it. I appreciate your transparency. And, you know, I think it's really important. And one thing that we've been missing is you see the left kind of ratchet up rhetoric, the right gets more extreme. And we've got to find a way to come back and have these discussions, whether it's policy or personal, and just be able to talk about it and still leave friends. And I love what you're both saying about it's like a marriage. Sometimes you have some of the biggest fights, but if you know nobody's going anywhere, you're better for it on the other side. And I hope and I see and I think that that's the case for the party, for Republicans in Alabama, for the legislature, and we're looking forward to it. So genuinely, thank you all for being here today. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Freedom First Alabama for your sponsorship. And we will see y'all tomorrow on the right side.